I didn't wake up one morning and feel stronger. Mental strength didn't come like a bolt of lightning or an inspirational speech. It arrived slowly, under the radar, subtle, like fog rolling into a valley, or shadows shifting at dusk, quiet but undeniable once you saw the outline they'd left behind. Back then, I used to wake up dreading the first breath of the day. I'd stare at my ceiling like it owed me something, a reason, maybe, or an apology. My apartment always smelled like overwatered houseplants and stale coffee grounds. I kept my curtains half drawn, not because I liked the light, but because I was too tired to bother. I wasn't depressed in the clinical sense. I was just exhausted in the emotional one. Life had become a noise I couldn't shut off. My inner voice was cynical, tired, always whispering, "This is just how it is." But it wasn't. It changed, not all at once, but in increments, micro decisions that didn't feel like much at the time, until I noticed that somewhere between habit number 3 and number 6, I didn't hate mornings anymore. Let me tell you what they were, these habits, these small decisions that changed everything. Habit number 1. I stopped lying to myself. It started with an empty fridge. I remember opening it one night at 11:30 p.m., starving, hoping something edible had miraculously appeared since I checked 2 hours earlier, but all it held was a bottle of mustard, an expired yogurt, and a carton of oat milk. I'd convinced myself wasn't sour, even though it absolutely was. I muttered, "I've been too busy to grocery shop," and the lie echoed like a dropped coin in an empty church. I wasn't busy, I was avoiding the supermarket, the effort of cooking, the sound of my own thoughts in the cereal aisle. I was skipping meals and telling myself it was just poor time management. I was procrastinating, breaking promises, and saying I'd get to it tomorrow. The first subtle habit? I stopped doing that. I stopped sugarcoating. I started catching myself in the lies, even the tiny ones, not judging, just noticing. I didn't call her back because I was anxious. I didn't write today because I was scared I'd fail. I stayed in bed because I couldn't face the mess I've made. There's a quiet kind of power in honesty. It hurts a little, but it's clean, precise, like tearing off a Band-Aid and realizing the skin underneath has already healed more than you expected. Habit number 2. I made a ritual out of leaving the house. It started with socks. Yes, socks. I'd gone nearly 5 days without stepping outside, and on the 6th day, I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror. My eyes were dull. My face had that soft puffiness that comes from eating like a raccoon and sleeping like a ghost. So I put on socks, then shoes. I didn't know where I was going. I just stood in the middle of the apartment and told myself, "You don't need a destination, you just need movement." At first, it was just 5 minutes outside, walking to the mailbox, standing under a tree, sitting at a park bench and watching the wind rearrange the world. Later, I started calling it my ritual. I gave it rules, no phone, no agenda, just walk, look, feel. It's strange what you notice when you stop rushing. A cat sunbathing on someone's car hood, a bird pecking at a cigarette butt, a stranger's laugh through an open window. The world is endlessly interesting when you let it be, and getting outside every day, even for a few minutes, made me feel like I had a spine again, like I was part of something bigger than my apartment walls. Habit number 3, I spoke to my past self like a friend. One night, I found an old notebook under my bed. Inside were messy, slanted entries from 4 years ago, pages of anxious loops and angry scribbles. There was one line I'd written over and over, like I was trying to cast a spell, "I just want to feel okay." I cried when I read that, not because I felt the same anymore, but because I didn't, and I realized I made it. Not in the life is perfect way, but in the I survived things I didn't think I would way. So I started a new habit, talking to my past self. Every time I overcame something, a difficult conversation, a lonely night, a spiral I interrupted, I imagined telling the version of me in that notebook, "We're doing it. It's hard, but we're doing it." It softened the shame I carried for who I used to be. It turned my internal critic into a caretaker. And that shift, that subtle shift, it changed everything. Habit number 4. I gave boredom a seat at the table. For most of my 20s, boredom terrified me. I filled every silent second with noise, podcasts while I cooked, YouTube while I ate, music while I showered, and infinite scrolling before bed. I thought I was staying stimulated, but really I was just terrified of being alone with my thoughts. Then one morning, my phone died unexpectedly, and I had nothing but a quiet room and my own breath. At first, I panicked. I walked in circles. I felt the anxiety crawl up like ivy wrapping around my ribs. But then something shifted. I noticed the smell of the soap I'd used that morning, the way sunlight bent through the dusty window, the pattern my fingers made on the tabletop. Nothing revolutionary, just real. So I made a habit. Every day I'd give myself 10 minutes of nothing, no input, no tasks, just existing. At first it was awkward, but over time, boredom became a visitor I didn't resent. It brought things with it, reflection, ideas, clarity. I started to hear myself again. Mental strength, I learned, wasn't just about action, it was about stillness too. Habit number 5, I let things be incomplete. I used to be obsessed with finishing things. Finishing books I wasn't enjoying, responding to every message, tying up every loose end like life was some kind of spreadsheet. But it exhausted me. I felt like I was playing emotional whack-a-mole with all the open tabs in my life. One day, I left a book unfinished, and nothing happened. The world didn't end. My worth didn't collapse. So I left a few more things undone. An email draft, a plan to meet someone I didn't want to see, a morning routine that didn't serve me anymore. And in their absence, I found breathing room. Mental strength isn't completing everything. It's knowing what's worth your energy. Letting go became my superpower. Now, my apartment has half-read books and half-finished to-do lists, and that's okay, because my mind doesn't feel half-dead anymore. Habit number 6, I tracked how I spoke to myself. It started as a sticky note on my bathroom mirror. Would you say this to a child? I'd been brutal with myself, over things like forgetting a call or burning a meal. The voice in my head was sharp-edged and sarcastic, always ready to mock. But one morning, I brushed my teeth and muttered, "Of course you forgot. You're useless." Then I caught my own eyes in the mirror and flinched. I wouldn't say that to anyone else, so why to me? I started writing down every cruel thought I had toward myself. Not to judge, just to see. The list was long at first, but slowly it changed. I started catching the voice mid-sentence and replacing it with something else. Not fake positivity, just fairness. You forgot. You're human. What's the next right thing? Over time, that voice became gentler, still honest, but softer. And for the first time, I felt like I was on my own side. Habit number 7, I began and ended each day with one clear sentence. This habit saved me when everything felt too big. Every morning, I'd write down one sentence that set my direction, not a to-do list, not a goal, just a single line of intent. Today, I will treat time like a friend. Today, I will not rush through joy. Today, I will speak only what I mean. And at night, I'd write one more sentence, a reflection. I noticed I'm calmer when I walk slower. I avoided the hard task, but I didn't run from it. I said no, and the world didn't burn down. The practice anchored me. It made time feel circular, not chaotic. And more than that, it made me pay attention. One sentence in the morning, one at night, the space between became intentional. Mental strength, it turns out, grows in those tiny containers. Habit number 8, I asked better questions. I used to ask myself things like, why am I like this? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just be normal? But those questions never led anywhere good. They were doors to shame, not insight. So I changed them. Instead of "What's wrong with me?" I asked, "What unmet need is showing up right now?" Instead of "Why can't I focus?" I asked, "What's my mind trying to protect me from?" Instead of "Why do I keep doing this?" I asked, "What fear is behind this pattern?" Better questions don't just get better answers, they rewire your reality. I stopped being my own prosecutor. I became my own investigator. And the strength that came from that, the softness, the clarity, was immense. Habit number 9. I practice discomfort without drama. Here's something no one told me. You can be uncomfortable without catastrophizing. You can feel anxious without spiraling. You can feel sad without deciding your life is broken. You can feel lonely without assuming no one will ever love you. At some point, I started sitting with discomfort like it was weather. Not a crisis, just a passing front. I'd say to myself, this is discomfort, not danger. This is heaviness, not hopelessness. This is vulnerability, not weakness. And you know what? Most feelings passed, some fast, some slow, but they all moved. I learned to let emotions flow through me instead of damming them up until they burst. That's real strength, not avoidance, but capacity. Habit number 10, I did small things with great presence. Mental strength didn't come from grand gestures. It came from how I washed dishes, how I poured tea, how I made my bed and noticed the folds in the blanket, how I answered texts with care, even if it was just "thank you." I started practicing being where I was. If I was eating, I tasted. If I was walking, I felt the ground. If I was listening, I didn't plan my response. It sounds simple, maybe too simple, but presence is a muscle, one most of us forget exists. And when I started using it again, everything changed. My life didn't get easier, but I got stronger, not louder, not tougher, just steadier, just